Hey guys, NerdKi here for part 3 of What If Krillin Pressed the Button, part 3. Let's go. So the following night, Krillin met Maron and Krillin Jr. at a carnival. He played games and rode on the small rides that Jr. could ride on, like the carousel. They all sat down for dinner, and Krillin and Maron started chatting and laughing. After the date, Maron put Jr. in the car and looked at Krillin. "So I had a nice time. That was fun," said Krillin. Maron didn't even let him finish his sentence, though, before laying a big kiss on his lips. After the warm embrace, Maron says, "I'll see you tomorrow." Krillin could only stare in blissful silence as he watched her walk away. "Well, I guess that means there'll be a second date, huh?" Krillin says, his face beet red. 6 months passed, and Krillin and Maron got married. Krillin, who was still living off Mr. Sane's bride money from the previous World Martial Arts Tournament, stayed home with Maron to raise little Krillin Jr. He still trained in martial arts to keep in shape for his wife. Krillin was a good dad and devoted husband, but Maron was starting to get bored, and her short attention span didn't help matters. Having to spend every waking hour with Krillin at home made her question her decision. Even though Krillin was good to her and her son, she felt like she needed more. The married couple had a discussion that turned into a fight. Mary wanted Krillin to take her more places, but he didn't want to blow all of his money from the tournament. Krillin finally decided to get a job. He became a firefighter and saved many lives. Marin and even Krillin Jr. were proud of him for picking such a heroic career choice, although his schedule, where he was away at the firehouse for days at a time before being off for several days, was a bit hard to get used to.
After a time, Maron and Krillin just didn't click anymore. Krillin was working hard, and Maron did her best to be a good stay-at-home mom, but still, she was bored and tired. This was no fault of Krillin, who started working only because Maron suggested it. It seems nothing he did would satisfy Maron anymore, and so one day, Krillin suggested divorce, and without a fight, Maron agreed. Maron got custody of Krillin Jr. since Krillin wasn't actually the father. With nowhere to go, Maron tried going back to her son's father, but couldn't even find him as he moved out of the country. She had no choice but to find a job she was able to do. She eventually got a job as a waitress, but was not very good at it. Maron would run into Yamcha, who came in the restaurant after a baseball game one day. The two instantly hit it off and would eventually get married and have children. Meanwhile, Krillin was training hard for the next world tournament at Kami House when a huge explosion shook the ground. He turned around to find Android 18 facing him. "18, what are you doing here?" says Krillin, surprised. "Isn't it obvious? I've come to kill you," she responds. "But why? I may have killed you before, but I used the Dragon Balls to bring you back. Can't we just let bygones be bygones?" 18 just looks at him for the longest time, quietly analyzing his tone and expression. They were both genuine. "If you can manage to knock me down to the ground, then I'll leave you alone forever. But if I knock you down, then you have no choice but to go on a date with me." Colonel looked dumbly at her for the longest time before saying, what now?" "You heard me. Now I know you got yourself pretty strong after fighting tournaments. Show me what you can do." 18 gets into an offensive stance and gets ready to charge at Krillin. Krillin puts up his arms and defends himself. He blocks an incoming strike, which had much power behind it. Krillin grabs the leg of 18 and throws her away. She lands on her feet like a cat and comes for him again. She hits him with a vicious headbutt to the gut that causes him to stagger backwards. Catching the ground with his hands, he flips backwards and springboards forward. 18 is ready to block an incoming punch, but Krillin vanished and appeared right above her. But she saw through it and fired a ki blast, one that he took head on. When the smoke cleared, 18 was surprised to see Krillin unharmed. He got into an offensive stance and rushed her, but propelled himself skyward just before getting to her. He launched a Kamehameha wave at her that she tried blocking with her hands, but it was too powerful, and it sent her flying backwards onto the ground. "Looks like I win, haha," says Krillin, holding up a fist to the sky in triumph. "Yeah, you did, as promised. I'll leave you alone to your own devices now." As 18 was about to fly away, Krillin could see a look of sadness on her face. He thought back to when he had the shutdown button that Bulma made in his hand, and how he hesitated to press it. "Hold up, 18, said Krillin. She turned and met his eye. "We could still go out on that date, you know," he said. 18 looked surprised as she said, "Really?" "Sure, why not? What have I got to lose?" "Your life if you mistreat me," she said. "What?" he said nervously. "Just kidding. Why so serious, Krillin?" The two share a laugh as they make plans to go out the very next day. As the years pass, Krillin and 18 are happily married and parents to daughter Maron. Krillin no longer has any regrets about pressing the button, since it all ended up for the best. He was happy. Alright, you guys, that concludes What If Krillin Pressed the Button, the trilogy. If you like this video and want to see more, be sure to hit subscribe. I'm NerdKi, and I'll see you next time.